Slava join me on stage. Give him a big round of applause. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming back again. You have made like the effort to fly here for like less than 24 hours. So thank you so much for being a returning guest. Last time we had the great fun to chat about like Indiegogo and your founding stories. Today we switched it a little bit up, but I want to just give a quick intro for people here who are not familiar with Slava. So he's been a pioneering entrepreneur and innovator, 2 decades of experience. He's the founder and managing partner at Humbition, a $30 million early stage venture-backed fund built by founders for founders. He also founded Vincent, revolutionizing access to alternative investments, and of course, a platform that many of you I'm sure have used, Indiegogo, a global crowdfunding platform that has empowered countless ideas to become realities and distribute more than $1 billion across more than 500,000 campaigns, so driving a massive impact. You've launched one of the nation's first equity crowdfunding businesses, diverse angel investments, including multiple unicorns, so you definitely have to teach me that one day, so that's pretty impressive. And you've also started a pretty popular podcast, Smart Humans, where you dive into alternative investments with industry leaders. And all of this, you've been coming from strategy consultants, so it's quite a big like career shift. So, so many things to touch on.
I didn't know you were going to be my PR guy. This is
I'll take just 1% commission.
There you go.
But anyway, it's an honor to have you here. And with that, let's like dive straight into that. So, what we're going to talk about is like how building products from 0 to 1, like general advice on that, and also how is AI changing that. So. Let me start, you've been a serial entrepreneur as well as an investor. So how do you go from a great idea to build and launch the first product?
Yeah, so first let me just start by saying, thank you to Vlad and obviously to you folks for joining here. I think this is an incredible event. It's, like he said, it's not my first time here, and I'm always looking to support. I think the community that's being built here is incredible, so really all of you should give each other a round of applause because it's very special, the fact that you're growing this here in this market, so thank you. People say, how has AI changed launching companies? I would say that there's 2 answers to that. One, AI just makes it faster and cheaper, which obviously people are talking about, but the part that people forget is it's no different. Meaning you still need to get product market fit. You still need to get customers. You still need to create an experience that people like. And it's funny because I won't say the person's name, but I was here a year ago, and there was a woman who told me about her amazing startup that she was going to do. And she told me she was going to launch it in a couple months. And I actually just bumped into her today after landing. I said, how is that going? And she said, oh, I'm going to be launching it very soon.
So you need to come back next year and check in again.
Well, my point is not to say that she hasn't launched it yet. But the point is the key to going from 0 to 1 and getting product market fit and getting, CAC evaluation, customer acquisition costs, and trying to figure out what the right user experience and the buttons and what the conversion funnels are, is actually taking action. Ideas we all have, just like we all have opinions. And one of the biggest things people struggle with is just not good enough yet. I'm just not ready. I just don't have enough money. I just don't have the right team. All of these things, in my opinion, and this might be a hard word, are excuses. No matter what, your early days are going to suck. It's just better to get through it quickly. Do you remember what it was like to learn to ride a bike? You probably don't even. It sucked. You probably fell a couple times. You might have even cried. You might have even got blood. But now I bet you most of you ride your bike. It's the same way, which is you just got to take action and go from, this stale spot where you're not moving to eventually momentum. Because momentum begets momentum. And there's a saying I like, which is, nobody likes to move a train, but everybody likes to get onto a moving train. So as a founder, you need to be the person that gets the train moving.
All right. So what is like to like drill a little bit into that, right? Like how do you, I mean, you've done it many, many times. I'm sure you have, early on, you have like 10, 20 ideas. So in order to get that train moving, how do you drill down from a big amount of ideas to the one that you really commit to and just say, let's go?
The only way that I know to go after ideas is I need to want to spend a large portion of my life and energy on it. And I need to want to be able to do it for many years, knowing that there's going to be a wild roller coaster of ups and downs. The way I don't know how to do it, so I can't give you the playbook, because other people can do this, and I'm not good at it, is saying, oh, I think I can make $1 million, $5 million, $20 million in the next 2-5 years if I just like make this thing and then sell it to these other people, like quickly I could flip it and make like a good amount of money. So I can't tell you that playbook because I'm not good at that, right? What I know how to do is you need to have passion for what you're doing, knowing that there's going to be a lot of challenges. See, for many of us, having a kid, I now have 3 children beyond having 4 startups. My startups were first. Indiegogo was my first child, really. But they're very similar. And the reason I say that is in the early days of having a child, you don't get a lot of love back. You know, the baby's crying, pooping, just like you have to make sure they're alive still. There's a lot of like challenges. But then later, you start getting some love back and it feels great. But it's only because you're the parent that you're willing to deal with such challenges in the early days. If you weren't the parent, it's much harder. Similarly, when you're the founder, you're willing to deal with all these struggles. If all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I don't want to be founder for the next 6 months, here, be the founder, it doesn't work so easily, right? You can't just hand off being founder, because the other person would be like, I got things to do, places to go, vacations, like, I don't want to be founder of this stupid company. So you have to be willing to have that love that you want to do this for a long time. And for me, it's about finding a problem in the world. My favorite phrases to hear is when somebody says, I wish. You know, all of a sudden, casually, you're in a party, you're out at the train or whatever, somebody casually says, I wish, you got to listen to what they say after they say, I wish. Because they're saying something like, I wish the train was able to tell me on time, like when it was going to come or whatever. All they're really saying is, I wish there was better technology, right? And you can solve that. So listen for the I wishes, or you might have your own I wish. And then look to try to solve that. And, you know, in terms of there's 20 ideas, pick the right one, it's really an overlap of a few things. One, is this a problem in the world? Is this something that you could be good at? Is this something that you would actually enjoy? If those 3 things come together, maybe you should be doing that one. Now again, there might be big problems in the world that you might not be very good at, or there might be big problems in the world that you might be good at that you want no part in dealing with. You just don't want to deal with it. Right? You got to think about those 3 circles and how they overlap. You know, a typical VC or an investor would be like large TAM, you know, total addressable market, large TAM, find product market fit, execute, blah, blah, blah. But like that's just like the actual steps of getting to success. The love and the passion that needs to be there to deal with the 93 rejections, which is how many rejections I got for Indiegogo from investors, 93 in a row before one person said yes. You know, that's not about a big TAM. That's about saying, I don't care what you have to say. I care about this problem. I want to do this. And you keep moving forward.
That's amazing. I'm not quite sure if you've convinced people to have kids and startups, or you're the first speaker who convinces people not to have kids or startups, which we need both more of in Cluj.
So there was this great entrepreneur, young guy. He sold his first company at 19 years old. He was on to his 4th company. I already had 1 child. And he's now married several years ago. And he says, my wife is really pressing me to have a child. I really don't know if I want to have a kid yet. I want to wait another 5-10 years. And I'm like, I said his name. I said, you know, it's kind of the same. You remember when you did your first company? It really sucked, and then you sold it for $3 million. He's like, yeah, that was awesome. But was it awesome at first? He's like, no, it sucked. It was like so much work. And then now you've done it 4 times. I was like, I know you're not going to believe this. Having kids is the same. They actually ended up having a kid a year later. And now he has 3 kids. And he literally says to me, he's like, they're exactly the same. Which is they're very difficult at first. And then it becomes much better and easier and a lot more, let's call it love, that comes out of it. And recognition, let's call it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know what? There's a little bit of learnings from each that you can keep doing for the next, but they're all unique.
All right, I love that. We'll host you to the family conference inclusion
There you go.
next time, and
There
we
you
do
go.
that as well. But let's switch back to startups and founding. So you talked a bit about like after you come from idea, after you put like the momentum into getting something going, that like getting product market fit is really the first critical test. So I want to ask you like 2 things about that. What was the first thing that you ever built that had product market fit? And then what is your advice for others to get to product market fit?
So often people will try to get to product market fit by doing PR, press, or by doing advertising, or influencer marketing, or trying to get word of mouth, or whatever. None of those things matter. The only thing that matters at first is having a user experience that people want to do to solve the problem that they have, whatever that is. And you need to iterate on that and keep on talking to your customers or listening to the customers through the data until you refine that experience. So I'll give you an example with Indiegogo. So because I thought I was so smart, when we started Indiegogo, we actually used to have 6 actions that you could take. For those that don't know, Indiegogo helps you raise money for ideas. We used to have many actions besides raising money. You were able to recruit people, you were able to promote things, you were able to get jobs for different projects, all on Indiegogo version 1, 2008, okay, long time ago. And we would ask people, so what is Indiegogo? And they would say, oh, it's a place where you can do projects and this or whatever. Anyway, fast forward, it wasn't growing very fast. It wasn't really a great experience. And we said if we were going to close our company and we were going to die on a hill, the thing we really wanted to accomplish was raising money for ideas. We wanted to crowdsource money for ideas. We didn't want to recruit people. We didn't want to do all these other things. But we thought having all these other actions would make it a sticky web, like a spider web, to catch everybody in and do the funding. And then you know what? We might have to shut down. We haven't raised any money. We're using our own cash to bootstrap. What's the last hurrah? We're going to remove 65% of the code, 65% of the work that we've done over the last year and a half. We're going to rip it out. We're going to take it out of the design. And we're only going to leave one action, fund. That's it. Let's see how it works. And all of a sudden, it started growing really fast. And we asked people, what is Indiegogo? They're like, it's a place that you fund things. Anything else? They're like, no, you fund things. Wow. This is fascinating. It was such clear focus, but it took us a year and a half because I was very bad at product a long time ago because I thought I was smarter than the other people using the product, so I thought I was going to catch them in my product, when really the customer is the smart one, and I have to listen to them. And it took me a year and a half to do that. So now all of a sudden it started growing, the metrics were moving up. And I still remember the day that I was like, you know what? We have product market fit, which is, besides the metrics all going up, I used to listen on Twitter, X, whatever, when it just started. And I would listen for the word Indiegogo or funding. Listen meaning check it as I would research it. And somebody said, oh, I can't go to that event that weekend. I'm working on my Indiegogo. And I looked through the chain, and it was one girl asking another girl to go to a music festival. And she said, I can't go to the music festival because I have to work on my video for my Indiegogo campaign, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, we just changed the trajectory of these 2 girls' lives. If there was no Indiegogo, they would be going to this concert. And now there is, and they're working on this. And I was like, and they're talking about it on Twitter. It blew my mind. So with the metrics and other people talking about it as if it existed, because 18 months ago it didn't exist. This couch used to not exist, hundreds of years ago, and somebody created a couch. And now we love using couches. 18 months before, Indiegogo didn't exist. And now people were talking about it like it exists, like it's normal. That's where you're in the flow.
I really love what you shared earlier, that you got to product market fit by doing less. I think the most common thing I hear from founders is say, oh, I just need to add these 7 more features, and then I'm going to get them all. So that is very brave. How did you get to that? Not say but you could have gone the opposite way. You could have said oh, instead of removing 65% of the code, I'll add another 65%.
It's a great point. What most people don't understand is in the early days of a startup, most of the time, they die of drowning, not of starvation. Meaning it's not because they don't have the money or they don't have the idea or the whatever. It's because they're doing too much, lack of focus, and lack of product market fit, which is, again, lack of focus. One of the hardest things to do when you're early in your journey is say no. Because you think, just like I thought, saying yes is what makes it a bigger strategy, which what makes you smarter. It shows that you're working harder. It's the saying no and the focus that is difficult and is actually much more required. And I tell you, the only reason we were even willing to do that is we got rejected 93 times in a row. We used only our own money. We were going into all of our retirement savings. I used to be much thinner. We weren't able to go out at night. There was no getting drinks. We were poor. And it was just we're either quitting and not doing this anymore and getting normal jobs, or we got to get some product market fit. And we just said, if we're dying on a hill, what's the hill we're going to die on? And we said it's not having some interactive place where you could do a million things. It was getting funding from strangers for your idea. So either they're going to press the fund button or they're not. And that was it.
That's awesome.
So that gets to the distillation of what is your idea, right? And they say elevator pitch. You should be able to say what it is in seconds. I mean less than 10, probably less than 5. I'm working on a brand new company right now. It's the world's first blind computer. It took a long time to get to that distillation. What does that mean? I mean, it's an AI company that optimizes how you're able to store and process data. But see, that takes a lot of sentences, which is the world's first blind computer, which is you can compute without anybody seeing the underlying computation, which in the world of AI is huge. But getting to the distillation of what are you actually offering, what are you trying to accomplish, is very hard. They have the saying I would have written you a 1-page memo, but I'm sorry I didn't have the time. I had to write you an 8-page memo. Because making it 1 page, edited really well, is much harder.
So as you touched upon that you're jumping into a new adventure, and you shared earlier that you said you should listen for this, I wish we had X. Was it you who wished to have a blind computer, or was it other people, or what got you? Talk us through that story, what went through your head?
Absolutely. So the I wish there is easy, and you probably all have said this many times yourselves. So for me, my dad died of cancer, and my wish is really that everybody would give their health data, and so that we can process all the health data, so that we could have 8 billion people's worth of health data to get to cures for cancer faster. But I know, just like myself, I don't want to share my health data with most people because I'm super nervous as to how my data is going to be used and what organizations, countries, or others are going to take advantage of that, charge me for it, or do things that I don't want to be done with it. So my wish, or many people's I wishes, is I wish there was a way to store that data and process that data to get the results without the stakeholders that store or process it to actually see the data, which is quite complex from a technological perspective. And there's lots of people who have said their I wish version of that, which is, I wish I was able to do email things without having to be able to have people see it. I wish I was able to, there's all kinds of logins and privacy things that can happen. So we just figured we would try to build it. And it's a very, very, very technologically difficult challenge. It goes back decades off of, we could get a little wonky here, which is called SMPC, Secure Multi-Party Computation. You take a piece of information, you break it down into like a billion pieces. Then if you actually hack into it, you can't hack into the whole thing. You can only hack into one piece. But if you have one piece, it doesn't really get you that much. So to actually put the information back together, you have to have each of the pieces talk to each other. So talking to each other takes a lot of time. So SMPC has been around for decades, but only works for massive value transactions. Like if you want to send like $100 million somewhere, you'll spend 10 minutes to have each of the little pieces talk to each other. But if you want to open up your like Instagram app or send a wire to like a Venmo to your friend, you're not going to wait 10 minutes for the transaction. So the people that we're working with and our co-founders have figured out how to take all the internode communication out of the process. So instead of taking 10 minutes, it's like central server speed, which is like instantaneous. I know I probably just got a little geeky there, but the point is it's a huge idea. We're very excited about it. It's called Nillion. It's like $1 million with an N. It's my latest thing that I'm working on.
So just help me understand a little bit more. Right? Like, so you had obviously the big idea, right? Like the thing that privacy and computing, privacy and AI, data processing has been a huge thing. So check on the big idea. It sounded also you had to really find and assemble the right people, because people, as you said, for decades have been trying to do that. So how did you go about like the second part? Was it people you've worked with before? Was it people like just go to the university, say, go to like conferences, like find the most brilliant people in that space? How did you crack the second part?
Yeah, that's probably the most important part. It's actually probably more important than the idea. If you give me a bad idea and a good team, I'll take that any day over a good idea and a bad team. Any day. So yes, I just was working with some folks that I worked on before, serial entrepreneurs. They are very special. This was the first engineer at Uber. This was also another person who's exited multiple companies at unicorn level. This is a chief scientist who's, like from the movie A Beautiful Mind, has dozens of patents from the late 90s, early 2000s on the movement of packets of the internet as to how the internet, the data flows. So yes, it's a ridiculous team. That is, the team that we put together. I was part of that team. That's why I'm excited about it. An idea by itself without a team to be able to try to work against it is, not something so great. But did we know exactly that? Did we have the world's first blind computer as the phrase 2.5 years ago when we started? Absolutely not. That actually only came out like 6 months ago, 2 years into it. It took a long time. But yeah, you want to surround yourself by incredible founders because the average company, is longer than the average marriage. So it's, there's...
Bro, like you already dissipated from having kids, now
it's
it's
true.
marriage is what you're going after,
it's
man?
It's true. So the divorce rates, so you really want to think about who your founders are, and that's critical to be part of a great team.
No, I love that. And I think the insight that you share, that many great founders share with me as well, is basically the relationships you build along your career. Right? Like even if across like many different stages, be it like somebody you work with as an engineer that is like at your prior company, right? Like those relationships, the best people seek out the best people.
100%.
And the best people will continue to want to work with each other to create amazing things, right? Like, so I think that's kind of like the thing for people in the audience. Like, please, like if you're around by people, if you build awesome stuff together, you can do that like so many times in the future, and it's a tremendous investment in your relationships.
Yeah, so I'll say a couple things about that. One, it always pays to be nice. It always pays to be helpful. Things come around. I'm 45 years old now. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Some of the people on the founding team I've known from like a decade ago. Sometimes I work with people or invest in people. One of my favorite investments as a VC right now is into my intern at Indiegogo. My 18-year-old intern, who 7 years later was like, I have this big idea to do AI and vision for augmenting food manufacturing. The way, soup is put into cans and created. I'm going to turn it into the way Elon Musk does with cars. I'm going to fully automate it with robots. He was a child when he was my intern. and we invested in them, and now, Kleiner Perkins and all these amazing other companies that follow us, I was the first money in. And this was my intern. And it's all about having those connections and staying close to people. So absolutely.
It's a famous saying in Silicon Valley that you should be nice to interns. Normally it goes like tomorrow they could be your boss. Not quite your boss in this case.
He might be. He might be.
No, awesome. Okay, maybe as one last topic to touch upon, as we wanted to say, like kind of like how is 0 to 1 in the times of AI. So you said earlier, like touched on the things that stay the same even with AI, but you also like alluded to some things. Does it get more affordable? Does it get cheaper? Can you get there faster? Do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, the simple answer is everything's faster, cheaper, more software is able to solve these things. It used to be that we would have to have entire rooms with servers. Now most of you don't even know what that means, right? Because we just process in the cloud. Similarly, it used to be that you would have to have, 3 or 5 designers, and now that's like crazy. You could probably get away with one and Canva and a bunch of other software. It used to be that you need to have dozens of testers as you built out your company as engineers, and now software is able to just augment that with AI where you don't need as many humans. I mean, I don't think we're quite at the place where we don't need engineers. There are some incredible AI companies that are looking to replace the need for engineers. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. There was an interesting quote, I can't remember who said it recently, but the idea of AI replacing engineers is like the idea of the microwave replacing cooking. So do you have microwaves? So sometimes you use it, but most of the time you don't. And it's good at like certain things. So that's kind of what's probably going to happen for AI replacing engineering in the coming years. It will replace engineering for certain things, right? But it won't be able to, completely replace your perfect meal, right? That still has to have a lot of love, passion, personalization, and that probably will still be required in engineering from the best engineers for a while. Do I think 20 years from now that could be different? Potentially, yes. I'm very excited as to where it's headed. But if I were you, I would try to find amazing people you want to work with, tackle some huge problem that you would not mind spending your life working on. And if it's successful, which you want it to be, you'd be excited to work on it for 20 years, which actually is almost how long I worked on Indiegogo. And for what it's worth, Indiegogo is still private and still doing well 17 years later. I'm no longer CEO. But if you don't want to sign up for 20 years, then you have to ask yourself, why am I even starting? And the reason I say that 20 years line, it's actually something from Jeff Bezos, which is, he said it takes about 20 years to make a dent in the world. So if you're just trying to flip and make some quick money, you probably can do it on Robinhood or like trading some stocks or trying to find the right next crypto meme coin. But if you want to make a dent in the world, you have to be ready to commit and execute.
I love that. Let's close with one rapid fire question. If you could put up a big billboard in Cluj, what would it say?
Related to this?
Yes, I mean, can be anything. I mean, we're here for your advice that has spanned many different domains. So we're happy to hear advice.
As it relates to startups, I would say start small, think big, and iterate quickly.
Thank you so much, Slava. It was a pleasure having you here again. He promised next time he brings his family to Cluj and shows them around. Big round of applause for Slava. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, and in case this is relevant, some people come up to me afterwards and ask for my email or whatever, so I'll just make it really simple. I run a fund. It's called Humbition. My email is slava@humbition.com. It's humble and ambition put together. Those are the two qualities we look for in entrepreneurs to invest in them. So you don't need to ask me for my email. Because I gave you my email doesn't mean I'm going to invest in your company. It just means that I'll probably respond and say I'm going to pass. But I'm very direct that way.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Slava, thank you so much, brother.